Chris from Chris Watches Pretty Little Liars. Mr. Post-Date. I just don't watch the show Pretty Little Liars, as demanding as that is. I actually run D&D games on a site called startplaying.games. Yeah, and if you haven't been aware of, and this will be quite a time capsule for those who listen to this in the future, there's a huge controversy these last couple of weeks, and I'll be honest, it's kind of taken over my brain space. So, should I have posted this sooner? Yes. Are you listening to this now? Indeed. And I will apologize every time that I don't post. I'm not officially considering doing bi-weekly posts, but that's in there, so I'm not letting you all down. And I feel less guilty when I miss a posting. But we are getting already off topic. We are talking about Mona in this episode of Pretty Little Liars. And I have to be honest, who is lying? That's the theme here. Who is a liar? And also, everyone's evil now. So let's just get into it, right? Let's get into it. Chris watches Pretty Little Liars. Chris watches Pretty Little Liars. Chris watches Pretty Little Liars. So he can help you figure out who's a... Season 3, Episode 15, Mona-Mania, Mona Medium. In our previously on, we were reminded of the skateboard incident. We see Evil Toby's face. Mona is out of the Radley. Garrett, something about a gun. I didn't think he died from gunshot wounds, did he? Where did that come from? I thought he was strangled. I didn't know he was shot. That's, well, anyway, we'll get to that later as well. Yeah, that's confusing me. We're reminded creepy janitor is a person, aka Inspector Spacetime, who may or may not be a twin of the previous character we saw. We're reminded that Byron and Allie may or may not have had an interlude the evening she disappeared, and the Meredith trailer explosion of doom. We start with an old movie now. I was like, this has got to be Ezra and Arya. I was close. It's Arya watching this old movie, which I think is the specter of Ezra in the room if there is an old movie playing. Byron walks in, and it turns out they've figured out who did the explosion. It's not Arya and the liars. Byron's like, I'm sorry for accusing you of trying to murder somebody. And Arya just watches TV. She doesn't really receive the apology. And then, in quite a dick move, Byron kind of spoils the movie and walks out of the room. I kind of laughed a little bit, like, well, dude, Byron, what's going on with you? Yeah, why is he evil? Why is everyone evil all of a sudden? We're going to get to that. Cut to school, Spencer, Emily, and Hannah. Harold's the name of the janitor that we're trying to find. I guess they're trying to find his office. So they're going in there, trying to find his office. They're at the school. And again, it says something about Garrett being shot. Was he actually... Did we know or hear that until they started saying it this episode? He was just in the crate, right? I didn't hear a gunshot. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. Anyway. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's being rewritten. But Spencer and Emily end up in the janitor room, and it looks like... And sure enough, there's a hoodie person in there. And I called at the time. It's like, oh, that's Lucas's shoes. Sure enough, this person runs out. All of Harold's stuff is gone, except for Allison's journal. And guess what? I forget who actually looks through it, but it is empty. It's an empty journal. And then they all get a text, nothing to see, basically, keep moving, ladies, nothing to see here, -A. Cut to the brew, all four liars are there. Arya's having stress dreams about Ezra and her dad. Is that right? Hannah has a gun? I don't know if does Hannah have a gun? Either I wrote in my notes she has gum or a gun. Anyway, not important. Spencer has some sort of test thing. This is a whole subplot in this episode, and I realized it's important to Spencer. I didn't quite understand what the importance is outside of ego, but someone who is supposed to run against her was in an accident, and now she's running unopposed, ... Mona, of course, is eavesdropping, and she comes up to the four of them. I mean, why are we even doing these scenes? She tells the lamest story, and there's been some lame stories. Harold was stalking her. He found the job at school, and they've determined that, quote, Harold is the one that did this explosion. And I wrote in my notes, Mona set up Harold for this explosion. Anyway, she has this really lame story, and she runs away, and I wrote in my notes, they don't buy this, right? And then finally, I think it's Arya who says it, who literally says it right after I wrote in my notes. There's no way that the liars are buying this story. They're not buying Mona's sad sack stuff in general, and they're not buying that Harold blew up Meredith. I mean, has nothing to do with anything. And someone else said, we don't owe Mona a favor. Cut a little bit elsewhere in school. Hannah approaches Lucas and says, look, I know it was you in the hoodie down in Harold's room. I won't tell anybody, which is like, what? And Lucas is basically warning her about Mona. Like, as long as Mona's out, no one is safe. Something about he couldn't stop her, which might have to do with the lake situation from last season. And it turns out this is again according to Lucas. He blew up the trailer. His idea was to scare her, which was like, huh? But that's what he says to Hannah. And he basically says, as long as Mona is back, we're not safe. Cut to class, Emily and Paige. Everyone's leaving, and Paige's parents are really overprotective. They're kind of freaked out after the train incident, and she looks like she's having some post-traumatic stress, right, as a result of the incident there. Emily's like, yeah, my dad is basically locking my house down, and there's going to be a party in the woods, and they decide they're going to go. So there you go. Cut to Aria and Mom Montgomery. Aria goes in there and says, hey, what happened the night Allison disappeared? And it sounds like Ella and Byron went on a date of some sort, right? They come home, have some wine, and there's a very specific detail that she gives to Aria here. She says he poured her an extra glass. She basically passes out asleep, and as far as she knows, both her and her husband were in the house that entire night, and they woke up to the news that Allie was missing. Meredith sees Aria and Ella having a chat. And there's spooky music playing. Nerd meeting, some sort of decathlon, some sort of athlon. And this guy who was supposed to be her opponent, her front wheel fell off of their car. And sure enough, Mona's joining the group, which I guess is something the principal forced on them. And then, what's this guy's name? I forget this moppy hair. Andrew? Is this his name? Andrew? Messy hair Andrew here. You guys have, what do you say? You guys have history or something? Just absolutely disaster. Spencer facepalm. She does a Jean-Luc Picard here. Mona's joining the group, and guess what? She's going to run against Spencer to be the leader of this group. And people voted, so it was first a vote, and it was split, so that's why they get to have this little quiz off to see who actually wins. And Andrew approaches Spencer. Are they making him a possible love interest? Because he had very Dream Boy kind of angles. I know what the show does now. I know what they're doing. He had some love interest camera angles. Anyway, he says, put on the Hastings face and kick some ass. And then that all happened. So tomorrow's going to be this quiz off between Spencer and Mona to see who runs this little club, I guess. And then Spencer gets a text, quit while you're ahead, bitch, -A. Like, whoa. What? So she assumes Mona sent it to her. Over on the quad, we're talking about this decathlon. Mona approaches. And again, let's get her Oscar ready. She denies everything, of course. She denies the text to Spencer. And then she says she just drops in there, of course, something about Jason helping her with something, which everyone freaks out about that. And she pretends to cry and goes back to her table. Folks, I'm telling you, it's working on some of the liars. They're breaking. They're kind of starting to believe Mona. And how in the hell would you believe Mona? But Meredith and Ella have a brief conversation. And basically they say, let's keep things professional. Ella's like, yep, I'm not talking to you. You know, he's dating you. I'm dating people. And Meredith says, I'm sorry, I accused your daughter of trying to murder me. So there we go. I cut to Aria, and some of the liars are there as well. And she tells them, you know, my mom slept through the storm, so her dad doesn't really have an alibi. And they're like, well, let's take a look at the pages that you took. She goes into her boot, and sure enough, the pages are gone. No surprise there, right? Byron walks by the door. He's like, man, quite a mess with all those boots. They do a poor job of giving an excuse why there's paper everywhere, or boots everywhere, I should say. And Byron adds, you know, you used to hide stuff in your boots when you're little. And he walks away, and Aria says, he knows. Cut to Hastings, Spencer and Evil Toby. They're studying. Every scene now with Toby is creepy. Creep. Evil Toby gets a call from, quote, my boss, which we all know is, of course, Mona. And then Spencer's like, all right, well, I got to do stuff. And then Evil Toby glares at the camera as he leaves. Why is Byron evil now? Why is Toby evil now? I don't understand it. Can you tell me, folks? And why are we trusting Lucas? Let's go over to Lucas's room. Lucas has done... Listen, Lucas's character arc up until now was lovable nerd, very quickly, dealing with a lot of stuff and not really great speaking to women. Now, Hannah goes right into his room. Someone really... listen, I am a nerd. Even that, is his room excessive? He has comic books perfectly laid, like set along one wall. The entire other wall is covered in action figures. They're not even grouped together. Like, I see a lot of people like will put them in a little group, right, and have like a scene playing out or something. He has these little perfect cubes on the wall. Anyway, it's pretty like, hey, this guy's a nerd. He's into comic books. Anyway, he tells Hannah, I'm leaving Rosewood High. Yes, I'm still being blackmailed by you-know-who, Mona. I guess she tried to run him over with a car. Oh, so he says, He tells Hannah Mona tried to run him over in a car. We know that was evil Toby, but he assumes Mona was behind the wheel. Now, whether this is intentional distraction, right, intentional lie to not implicate Toby, I don't know, but makes sense that he would be a skateboard dude. And he says what we've been saying for a very long time. He is a middleman. He's asked to do task and drop it off at another spot, kind of like that. There's that Black Mirror episode, very disturbing Black Mirror episode. But basically, someone shows you something that you did. We, the viewer, didn't see what it was until the very end. Person does something, so that doesn't get released, and then someone else shows up, and they're also being blackmailed. So it kind of feels a lot like that. I should get you the actual title because it sounds like I'm talking nonsense here. But I think that's how A works. A has a piece on you, and apparently he was selling test answers. So he thinks, well, if I leave Rosewood High, I can't be in trouble for selling test answers, hence A does not have a hold over me. And so after this scene, Hannah seems to believe Lucas. This is a question I asked often this episode. Do we believe him? Do we believe Lucas's story here? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Arya is having a chat with Ezra over what looks like some sort of IM system. And even then, I don't know. So they're texting / IMing, and then we hear parts of Byron and Meredith's argument. Something about you're going through what? Blah, 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 going through what? So, Byron was going through something. And then he grabs her arm, like really hard. And she kind of freaks out, and he says, I'm sorry, lets her go. Arya's like, Dad, what the fuck? And he's like, it's fine, go to your room. Yeah, when did Byron become like this? When did this happen with Byron? He does this to Arya too, doesn't he? Is this episode, or was it the other episode? Yeah, so we have evil Byron now, I guess. In a car, Emily and Paige are apparently going to this party. Paige starts freaking out. She starts to have a panic attack. Interestingly enough, why do this? I don't know yet. She pulls over and she says she can't go to this party. And so they literally leave the car for a bit, which is perfect timing for evil Toby. But again, I suspect Paige is being very untruthful. Why would she do this intentionally? I don't know. But I don't know. I'm very suspicious of Paige now too. So it's quiz time. Mona's sending an extra card to Brad, who is injured. Spencer can tell that she's just sucking up all over the place. I said in my notes, this show has a lot of questionable things, right? A lot of things that are hard to believe. How could Spencer lose this is maybe the most unrealistic thing ever in this show. So even here, I'm like, there's no way Spencer can lose. Who can beat Spencer? So after the incident at the home of the Montgomerys, Arya tracks Meredith down at a coffee shop. They have a talk. Meredith says to Arya that she caught Byron in Arya's room going through papers and other stuff, and it's not the first time he's done it. He started to go through a purse, assuming it was Arya's. Meredith is like, hey, that's mine. What the fuck are you doing? I put Meredith has notes. Does she have it? So do we trust Meredith here? Now, what she says, again, this is part of her story now. The night Allison disappeared, Byron came to see Meredith. So Byron and Ella have a date, gives her some wine, then apparently goes to see Meredith. He thought Meredith was a person that trashed his office, and so they apparently had some sort of a conversation. He left her apartment to go meet Allison, and then the next day Allison's missing. That's Meredith's story. Do we believe her? Quiz thing. It's close. Spencer and Mona doing questions. And I put in my notes, most unrealistic thing in this show. How can Spencer lose this? I have no idea. How is it even close? Emily and Paige, why do they walk so far away? Of course, they come back, tire slashed. They hear noises in the wood. So they're just going to hoof it back to town. Well, I'm sorry, before I get there, Emily tries to run after this person. So the hooded vigilante's running away. Emily's chasing. And I was like, she almost has him. And she loses him. And sure enough, we see that's evil Toby in the hoodie. Back to the quiz. I cannot believe Spencer's losing, or Spencer lost, because they're going to take a break, no break, and then Spencer screws up, Mona takes the victory. Unbelievable. Back at the Montgomery home, Arya and Byron, Meredith walks up, so Arya and Meredith walk in, and Byron apologizes all over the place. So the decathlon, Spencer loses, Andrew, floppy hair boy, is like, what happened? Spencer's like, I really blew it, evil Toby's not around. And then Hannah confronts Mona. I'm not sure when this is, but she basically tells Mona, I don't believe you. Your act is foolish. I talked to Lucas. And she calls her out. She pulled a Spencer. Then she runs away. Hannah and Spencer get a text, cut Mona off, big mistake, -A. And so it's said here, which we have thought on this podcast for a long time now anyway, but now it's entering the liars' mind that there's multiple A's But they realize Mona doesn't need A anymore to take them on. She can do it right in the open. Paige is sleeping at Emily's. Again, a big mistake. And the summary of this scene, get therapy, Paige. Wow. That's finally yes, Paige needs therapy. We all could use therapy. Let me take a quick moment to say that. You know what? We all could use therapy. Paige could really use someone to talk to who is a professional. So we cut to the Montgomery household. Arya's in her room. Meredith walks in as if she is the mom of the house and says, yeah, Byron left, which I didn't even think was real until we see what happens later. Arya has like the flu now because she's so upset. Meredith's acting creepy, and now this is making sense to me. So then we cut to Byron, who's actually at his office at Hollis. Creepy cam, which we've determined means someone is watching. He leaves. He does something. He leaves. And we see a hooded vigilante. This is Mona. Says he's leaving. She calls into the phone. Then we have, I guess this is a post-credit scene. It kind of didn't feel like it, but I guess it is. So Evil Toby is at some sort of campground. He takes out the masks that were used on the train, and he very poorly buries them, clearly with the intention to have them discovered the next day. So what do I think, folks? Well, I think we are seeing the A Army here. I don't know if Lucas's story is true. I do believe, however, Mona as the head, Evil Toby, Meredith, and Paige are all working together. To what end? I don't know. I do not know. But that is what I am certain of. That they're all working together. Mona as the head A of this A sect. And that Lucas may or may not be working for Allison's A network. I don't even know what to say. This is truly an episode where I was like, I no longer know who is on what team. I know generally who we trust and who we don't. And we still haven't talked about Caleb shooting. We have not talked about that. And I still don't understand why that's been glossed over, but here we are. So I guess we just plow ahead. You know, I think Allison still can't reveal that she faked her death. It doesn't feel safe. I still think it's going to happen this season, but we're pretty far away from her. If I were her advisor, I would say no. We still don't know who might be a danger to you. So I've been Chris. You can find me on Instagram at Magoogs, TikTok at Mac2theGal, Twitching occasionally at Mac2theGal. I'm going to get a YouTube going here this year, very soon, and we're going to be better about trying to get these out on time. More stuff to announce later. Some involving games, some involving more podcasts. But yeah, I hope you're doing okay. Hang in there, folks. Hang in there. I've said way too much.